name is Daniel Bolton and welcome to Brimbank Library Life Skills video series. Today I am joined by Rachel and we are here to talk about nutrition and cooking on a budget.
Hi everyone, my name is Rachel. I work at Brimbank Libraries and I'm also a dietitian working in private practice in Sunshine. And I'm really excited to be here to talk about nutrition and cooking on a budget. I think it's so important as a young person that we have those opportunities and understand how we can cook really yummy, nutritious meals for a very small price.
What is a healthy diet?
It's a great question, something I answer all the time. I think a healthy diet is different for everybody, and I think that it's certainly something that depends on what your goals are as well. So if somebody's trying to manage a chronic condition through really good nutrition, that's one thing. If somebody's trying to gain weight, their healthy diet is going to be very different to everyone else's. But for me, when I'm talking about healthy diets, I talk about the 5 food groups that we have because they're really nutritious. So in Australia, we have 5 main food groups that we want to eat majority of our food from. So that's fruits, our veggies, also our protein foods, so meat, and then meat alternatives if you're a vegetarian or a vegan. Also our carbohydrates, so that's our grains and our cereals, as well as our dairy, so that's our milk, our yogurt, and our cheese. So if we're eating majority of our food from those 5 food groups, I think we've got a pretty healthy diet. But of course, we always leave allowances for those foods that are less nutritious, but really fun, and often the foods we eat when we eat out socially or with our friends. So things like chocolate chips, lollies, those types of foods that don't give us a whole lot of nutritious ingredients, but certainly give us that social pleasure and joy of eating, which is arguably just as important.
Alright, are carbohydrates unhealthy?
Yeah, sure. This is another question I answer all the time. My answer is no, they're not unhealthy. Carbohydrates are things like fruits and grains and cereals like oats and multigrain breads, legumes, so that's things like chickpeas, beans and lentils. And there are other carbohydrates like our dairy foods as well, so this is things like our milk and our yogurt in particular. So carbohydrates are unhealthy. All those foods that I've just listed are part of those 5 food groups we want to get majority of our nutrition from. And a lot of the time, our really great cereals and grains contain lots of fibre. We know that's really important for our gut as well as our heart, and maintaining really optimal health for those 2 parts of the body. So carbohydrates generally absolutely fine. It's those foods that aren't as nutritious that often people think, oh, carbohydrates are bad. But it's just those foods that we want to enjoy in moderation, and we certainly still can. There's definitely allowances for those in our diets.
What are the best tips for cooking on a budget?
Wonderful. So I have 2 tips for cooking on a budget. So my first one is to think about buying produce, particularly our fresh fruits and veggies, from local kind of markets, and certainly buy the ones that are in season. So if a vegetable or a fruit is a really, really cheap price at the supermarket, often that means it's in season. We have an abundance of it, so we can sell it cheaper. Often they also taste a lot better because they're fresher. And the second one is about the supermarket you're going to. So have a think about, am I going to a supermarket that's really, really popular? Is it one of those big supermarket chains? Because often you can go to a smaller supermarket, a local supermarket, for example, an Aldi or an IGA, and you can certainly find the same types of foods, just different brands, for a lot cheaper. And they're still nutritionally the same, there's no difference. And one thing that I often find is that all of the really expensive groceries at the supermarket are on the middle shelves, which is exactly where they should be because these organisations, these manufacturers pay the big supermarkets more money to have their foods in the eye line. So they're making sure that people see their produce on the shelf. But the ones at the very top of the shelves and the foods at the very bottom of the shelves often are a lot cheaper. And you often find that that's where the home brand foods are, so the brands that we don't actually think about every single day, but certainly are just as nutritious for us. So have a look up and down when you go to the supermarket, go to a greengrocer or a local fruit or veg shop, and have a think about buying seasonal. They're my best tips.
Alright. What is your favourite low-cost meal to make?
So my favourite low-cost meal to make is Veggie Patties, and I'm going to make them now. So in the bowl here I have 3 cups of grated vegetables. So I've chosen zucchini, carrot and potato, and I've actually kept the skin on all of them. I've just given them a good wash and just grated them up and popped them all in the bowl there. To that I'm going to add 2 eggs and also 1 cup of breadcrumbs. It can be any breadcrumbs. If you have stale bread or a few day old bread, you can actually blitz it up in a blender and make your own breadcrumbs. And this is the simplest version of the recipe, but in my opinion it's just as yummy as the other versions too. So we'll crack the eggs in. 1, and the second one, 2, and then to that we add in around about 1 cup of breadcrumbs. If you run out like me, it's okay for just less than 1 cup. And we just mix that all in together, and then we'll add some salt and pepper. You can see it's coming together really nice. Alright, a little bit of salt and pepper. It's really tasty. And once that's all mixed in, I'm going to take it over to the pan, pop some oil in a pan, and just fry them on each side for a couple of minutes. So I've added a little bit of olive oil into my pan, and I'm just going to add handfuls of the patties in. You could also use some kind of measuring cup to measure out even portions, but I'm quite rustic, so I'm just going to do small little handfuls, kind of like a meatball size, and pop them into the pan. So these patties will take about 2 to 3 minutes both sides for the egg to fully cook. So they're super quick and super easy. So we've got the last patty here. Such a super easy, super cheap, super quick meal to make. What do you think?
Yeah, they look good. Well, thank you Rachel for showing us the basics of cooking on a budget and giving us an understanding of nutrition. My name is Daniel Bolton, and thank you for joining Brimbank Library Life Skills video series.